for another update. Let's take a look at Bitcoin here today on the 2-week time frame. We'll look at the high time frame and then we'll zoom into the small time frame just so I can show you a top-down analysis. And taking a look here at the 2-week time frame, you can see how many times we came down to this momentum indicator. We actually wicked below it for 6 weeks over here. We wicked below it and we never had a weekly close below this momentum indicator. And you can see that every time we had a bottom and then, or the correction was done and then we grinded up off of it, we went into the next parabolic advance in the market. Even over here, you see we always came down to test it at the bottom of a correction, but then the price then gets unraveled, but to the upside. So it looks like we see a perfect example of that playing out over here. And then on the weekly time frame, we have a 3 white soldiers candlestick pattern with a piercing line reversal pattern, very similar to that of the S&P 500. You can't really consider this a piercing line reversal, but it looks very similar to that of what the S&P 500 did right over here. So we'll take a look at the blank chart on the S&P. And do you guys see this weekly time frame, how you had this suicide candle here on the week of March 31st? Market was in panic, and then the next week, the following week, you open below the previous week's close. You have max panic over here, and then this candle closes back into the range over 50% of the previous trading week's price action. So this is a classic piercing line reversal candlestick pattern. The following week we had a doji. The week after that we had a bullish engulfing. This week is likely going to print another doji, and then the following week we'll likely see a rally back towards the 200-day moving average. So now don't forget that we do have a death cross where the 50 cross is below the 200-day moving average. However, I think that the bottom was set on the S&P before that indicator crossed. It tends to be a very lagging indicator. So we'll just check this out a little bit closer. As you guys can see, we had this death cross here, but like I said, I do think we rally into it. So I do see a move to around 57.45. And if we do end up getting above that, above this 200-day moving average at 57.45, then it's very likely that the S&P 500 will go in for the 5th wave, like I was mentioning in yesterday's video. This is what the wave count would look like. We did tap into this gap that we had here. You see how we tapped into it and then we closed back down. So exactly like I said in yesterday's video, we would tap into this gap over here, see a little bit of a decline and then continue higher, or we would get the full breakdown. But so far this is looking pretty promising for a continued move to the upside. I just want to see a move back up to this 200-day at 57.46. But zooming out here on the S&P, it does look like this could have a 5th wave to the upside here, because we have come down to this historical support that we've used since 2022. We tapped it in 2022 of October, tapped it in October 2023. So actually 1 year after 2022 we tapped it. And then this is April 2025, we tapped it here, right? So we'll see how this plays out, but S&P 500, we'll continue to monitor this. What I'm expecting here on the S&P is continuous chop within this region and then we're just going to have to wait until the price unravels itself either to the upside or the downside. But my bets are placed on the upside for the S&P, and that would translate to higher prices on Bitcoin. Taking a look here on Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame, to the naked eye, you would think it's normal to think that this is a bear flag, right? Because we're in a channel and it's ascending. So it would make sense to think that if we go below 95,253, which is the close, which is the 4-hour close on April 24th. If we go below that level, then it's likely we'll come down to the 200-day moving average and tap into this inefficiency right over here from 88,772 to 90,598. And then we would continue up from there. Now, like I said in yesterday's video, if we do get the breakdown, we would want to be taking a fib. To find the supports, we would want to be taking a fib from the bottom of this consolidation up to this high over here. And these would be all of your support fibs. But I actually don't think it breaks down here. I think it continues its move up, considering we have hidden bullish divergence here on the 4-hour time frame. And you actually see this a lot in the middle of uptrends with Bitcoin, where you have a rising channel, but instead of it breaking down, it actually breaks up because it's ascending accumulation. Okay, now we're just below the 61.8% fib right over here. You see, we're just below the 618 at 94,558. So I do think that we will see continuation up to around 97,646 and 100,835 if we end up staying above this level here at 92,200. If we go below 92,200, then like I said, it's going to come down to this inefficiency right here and to these fibs before resuming its uptrend. Now, something to also be mindful of is USDT dominance. But before I dive into USDT dominance, I wanted to show you that every time we are at the bottom of this correction, and we grind up off of this momentum indicator that we have, we go in for the next advance in the market. And you can see that we've done that right over here. We actually wicked below it 4 times, and now we're grinding up off of it. Okay, now you can see here on, let me see here. Now something to also be mindful of is USDT dominance. Okay, now we haven't had any weekly closures above the 78.6% fib at 6.14%. So as long as we stay below 6.14%, then I think the market will have a continued move to the upside. We actually have a break of structure right over here, taking out the week of March 24th low with these 2 candles over here. So you may see a little bit of a retrace, but then ultimately a continued move down on USDT dominance, which would translate to higher prices in the crypto space. Okay, so this is Bitcoin over here. Just wanted to make a quick video showing you that even though it does look like this may break down here on the 4-hour, be cognizant of the scenario in which we grind up instead, considering this could be ascending accumulation and that we also have hidden bullish divergence on the 4-hour time frame. Okay. And more importantly, the 2-week time frame, the high time frame, it is grinding up off of our momentum indicator here, coming down to the weekly. When we put the Keltner channels on the chart, we also see that, we'll go down to the daily. We also see that when you got above our momentum indicator here, you see how well we use this middle band here as support. Then we had continuation up, and then we pierced, with this daily candle, we pierced the upper band of the Keltner channel, and then ended up making a high above it. and then closing back down about 1.25%. So this is where you would enter for the anticipation of this continuation. Now, I know a lot of people are shorting this what looks like a topping structure over here for the anticipation of a move back down to the mean. But just remember that this Bitcoin could break up instead. So we'll continue to monitor this range, mark out your chart, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Peace out and take it easy. I'll see you guys in the next one.